Too many people today remain ignorant of history. This is not their fault. The schools have for some time not just eliminated historical facts from the students, but what history has been taught has been distorted beyond its understanding. It is important to understand history, not simply being able to cite certain facts and dates when things happened. As George Orwell, author of 1984 and Animal Farm, two of the most important novels that exposed the aims of the communists in the middle of the 20th century, said, the most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history. Obliterate their understanding of their history. As Robert Welch, the founder of the John Birch Society, used to say, we need to build understanding within the American people. Again, not simply spreading education, but understanding of the principles and the history of our country and the history that has a bearing on what is happening today, to understand what is happening today. At the beginning of our country, about the time the Constitution was up for adoption by the states, a force began to be introduced into our country, emanating from revolutionary France. Today, the idea is propagated that the French Revolution was similar to the American Revolution, yet nothing could be further from the truth. The American Revolution was founded on the idea of God-given rights and the right to private property. The French Revolution was founded on the rights of the masses, not the individual, and the elimination of God from public life. The guillotine in France was not only used just to eliminate members of the royal family. It was used to get rid of anyone who had the ability to oppose the revolution. It was also used to behead thousands of priests and nuns in their attempt to wipe out Christianity. The adherents of those who followed the French idea, even though they were a small minority in America, created a great deal of havoc in our country and engaged in the usual mass demonstrations and rioting we see today. They were known as the Jacobins. They infiltrated the state and federal governments and were opposed to Washington and Adams and their administrations. They had spies within the Washington administration who leaked information to their newspapers and in general played havoc within the administration in an attempt to hamper the policies of George Washington and the American system. At one point, they organized a riot of 10,000 people in the Capitol looking for Washington to hang him. They didn't teach you that in school, did they? We will not dwell any longer on what was really going on, except to say that due to the layer of strength within the American people, with the morality level they had and the understanding they had of what liberty really meant, the Jacobin movement died out. Every radical and communist movement today can trace its antecedents to the French Revolution. Some of them even brag about it, including the Muslim radicals. So why are we talking about this now? Simply because over the last weekend in Portland, Oregon, the icon of the French Revolution has once again reared its ugly head, the guillotine. The ANTIFA crowd, which had been rioting in Portland for months, rolled out a guillotine into the streets in front of the police bureau. They burned American flags at the base of the guillotine. It was a clear signal as to what they wanted to do to the police and anyone who opposed them. Those who understand what is going on understand that the revolutionaries in the streets want to change our society completely, including getting rid of the churches in America as part of that process. The pastors of America need to understand what is going on. The idea that they cannot even hold church services due to the pandemic is simply one leg of a Marxist attempt to rid America of its religious base. The pastors must realize that if they do not stand up now, the rioters will come for them next. We are recommending this week that you do all you can to educate your pastors as to what is going on and to give them support so they can stand up. Why is this so important now? Because the Bill of Rights states that the government cannot prevent the free assembly of a religious people. It is so important that it is the first statement in the Bill of Rights, the first right, the most important right. The Bill of Rights starts off by stating, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This was how important it was for the people to be able to practice their religion. This shows just how important this right was to the founders of our country. Today, this idea is being prevented by edicts issued by governors and mayors who are Marxists in the name of the shutdown over the pandemic. Pastors must rise up, stand up, just as they did during the American Revolution. If they do not provide the moral leadership in our communities, then they will suffer the consequences down the road in one of two ways. Either they will submit to the revolutionaries, or they will lose the respect of the people they supposedly are to shepherd. Either way, they will diminish the layers of strength that exist within the American society. Many pastors claim they do not want to get involved in politics. Try saying that as your church is being burned to the ground. Early church martyrs died because they would not bend the knee to false gods, including emperors who proclaimed themselves gods. They had a higher allegiance than the state, and the state cannot tolerate this. They may have rendered unto Caesar that which was Caesar's, but they rendered unto God that which was God's, and the state could not tolerate this. They can't stand it today. If you want more information on the history of this movement in the early years of America, we recommend that you send for the book To the Victor, Go the Myths and Monuments. The revolutionaries really do mean to eliminate the churches from America. There are pastors and priests here and there who are standing up. There needs to be more. Reach out to the leaders of your local church and get them to understand that they have to become involved, or they will lose their right to even be a church. If they are afraid to do so, remind them of the fact that the martyrs did not let that stop them.